Hello there. Thank you so much for joining us. You're watching News Channel Nebraska. My name's Eric McKay. Let's take a look at our top headlines today. Severe weather expected to hit Nebraska and multiple other central U.S. states on Monday. This after Texas saw deadly floods over the weekend. And as Amy kindly reports, some are comparing the storm to a hurricane.
A storm system that brought floods, left a 5-year-old boy dead, and displaced thousands in Texas is moving east. Today, it's pushing across Kansas, Oklahoma, Nebraska, Missouri, and surrounding states. Now, most Texans are getting much-needed relief.
In this area, it's second only to Hurricane Harvey.
In the county that includes Houston, officials say hundreds of people and pets needed rescuing over the weekend.
You can have a seat up here.
People just think they can make it through the water.
Many area residents remember Hurricane Harvey in 2017 and know what severe weather can do.
It's very scary. I'm threatened every time this water comes up.
Now they're seeing flooded homes all over again.
They're losing a ton of stuff. I mean, some of these people they're really hurt.
It's not just coastal residents who are affected. Officials say the boy who died got caught in floodwaters after getting out of a submerged vehicle near Fort Worth. In Central Texas, this asphalt on a bridge is in pieces due to floods, and police say the storm turned the city of Clifton into a kind of island.
We've certainly experienced it with hurricanes, but it doesn't take a hurricane.
I'm Amy Kiley reporting.
Meanwhile, Nebraska saw another round of severe weather Friday. The National Weather Service saying 4 tornadoes touched down in central Nebraska in a span of just under 2 hours from just before 9 until almost 11 o'clock. The National Weather Service in Hastings says Phelps, Harlan, and Webster counties all experienced a tornado. Specific details have still been unavailable. The survey team still investigating, but storm spotters say golf ball-sized hail fell. Once the NWS conducts their damage survey, more information will be available about the size and the scope of Friday's tornadoes. This after a week prior, tornadoes tore through eastern Nebraska, leaving widespread destruction and a long, slow recovery. Joe Jordan is on the ground with more from Elkhorn.
It's now been 1 week, one long, difficult week for hundreds of families here in eastern Nebraska, hard hit by tornadoes. Damage numbers continue to climb for several neighborhoods in Elkhorn, Bennington, and Blair. According to early federal reports in Douglas and Washington counties, 400 homes have at least some damage, 160 destroyed. Public infrastructure, roads, buildings, and more in Douglas and Washington hitting $8 million. Statewide, $11.5 million. The governor is asking President Biden to declare the areas a federal disaster.
We'll get all the federal resources here to be able to help Nebraskans recover.
No concerns that Washington won't be there in the end?
I do not have any concerns. I believe that the federal government is going to be there to do their part in helping us recover.
The oddities of Mother Nature on full display. This home, gone. Right across the street, not a scratch.
My nephews and my brother-in-law are coming out with trucks. We've got a couple more things.
We will have extra patrols for the foreseeable future.
This is the first full day the Nebraska National Guard has been on the ground here after Douglas County officials asked Governor Jim Pillen ordering the Guard into neighborhoods in Elkhorn to help manage heavy traffic and help put an end to any threats of looting in the area. As we reported earlier, 2 men in this area caught sheriff's deputies' attention. One of the men, Alejandro Vera, was booked on several counts, including possession of burglar tools. Along with a flashlight and work gloves, he's accused of having a pry bar. The other man, Shane Syrian, was cited for trespassing. In addition, the sheriff says a pair of wire cutters and meth were found in their car. The Guard is scheduled to be in these neighborhoods for the next 2 weeks. In Elkhorn, Joe Jordan, News Channel, Nebraska.
With tornado damage still lingering at Sycamore Farms, junk stock continued on as scheduled. The Vintage Festival sustained damage during that tornado outbreak in Waterloo, and there were worries whether or not the festival would happen this year, but the event going on as planned. Organizers with the 39th edition of the event say the outreach from the community made the day possible.
Yeah, this year was a bit of a challenge. We had the tornado hit Sycamore Farms, home of junk stock, literally 1 week ago before the event. So thanks to the community rallying behind us, we were able to get everything cleaned up on Saturday morning. We had hundreds of volunteers out here picking up trees and debris, and we're able to, the show must go on, as they say, and we're making it happen.
Organizers say hundreds of volunteers helped ensure the start of the event, which continued into Sunday and starts up again this weekend. With communities continuing to recover from the tornado outbreak, the National Weather Service says April was the second highest tornado count on record. In the U.S., 182 tornadoes were reported in April. 19 tornadoes were seen in Nebraska alone on Arbor Day. In the last week of April, more than 100 tornadoes were reported across the U.S., and that could be just the beginning. The National Weather Service says April is the third most active severe weather and tornado month of the year. The months of May and June tend to have higher tornado totals. In other news, a U.S. dairy farmer who caught bird flu appears to be the first known instance of mammal-to-human transmission of the virus. The worker reported no contact with sick or dead birds, but did have repeated close contact with dairy cows in Texas, where herds were infected. That's according to a letter on the case published in the New England Journal of Medicine. The man was treated with antiviral medication and never became seriously ill. Still, his case shedding new light on bird flu. It confirms humans can get the virus after contact with cows. At the same time, it illustrates how hard it will be to track an outbreak like this, where a positive test could mean a farmer loses days of work and pay. There have already been rumors of dairy workers who've been sick but don't want to be tested. A nonprofit in Norfolk that sends Malawian teenagers to Nebraska colleges has led some college leaders and host parents to say they're fed up. Luke Stera spoke with Natalia Alamdari of the Flatwater Free Press about this story and what she found in her research.
Well, we're joined now by Natalia Alamdari to kind of talk about the relationship between Norfolk and Malawi. So what did you discover regarding Norfolk schools in Malawi?
Sure. So someone had reached out to me a couple months ago. They just had concerns about this nonprofit that's existed in Norfolk for a couple years now. Basically, the premise is there's a school in Malawi founded by Joe Matika, who is from Malawi but lives in Norfolk. And so the kind of premise of the school is you're able to get an American education, take your ACTs, put you on that path to being able to go to school in the US for your college education. And so that's been going on since about 2017, I think, is when the first group of students arrived. But the main concern that folks had when they were talking to me was students arrive in Norfolk and they are very unprepared for what life is going to look like, whether in the sense of the tuition they're going to need to be paying, their housing situation, whether or not they have scholarships, all sorts of things like that.
Yeah, and one of the terms that was used in the article was they kind of described the program as a bait and switch. So why did some of the involved parties use that type of terminology to describe this program?
Bait and switch kind of comes into play with this idea of you're a student, you're in Malawi, you're maybe 17, 18. In some cases, these kids were as young as 16. But that bait and switch really comes into play when students arrive and they think, oh, I have a host family, or a sponsor is going to be paying for my tuition, and then that ends up not being the case. So one student in this meeting that was held a couple months ago had really described it as it's not that I feel entitled to this or anything like that. It's more so that if I had been able to have set expectations, that would have given me a better view of what do I need to be expecting as far as working, savings, all that sort of thing. As far as response from the nonprofit, so when I spoke with Dr. Matiko, who runs the whole program, he had really said his point of view was, this is all miscommunication. If you say scholarship in Malawi, that is going to mean something differently to a Malawian than to a American English speaker. And he was really saying, like, this is just a misinterpretation. Like, people are hearing scholarship and they're thinking it means full ride when it doesn't necessarily mean that. What he said is that his plan moving forward is, with future groups of students who are graduating from Norfolk schools in Malawi, is to make sure that they have, everything outlined, written on paper, so that parents and students understand, these are the financial commitments you're making. This is what you need to expect as far as tuition, housing, what assistance you may or may not be getting, just so that people don't have an idea of something in their heads. Malawi is one of the poorest countries in the world, I think in the top 10 with that metric. So to pay for college is something that's very difficult for families. They're coming into not only are they landing in a new place, they're also navigating a higher education system that they might not necessarily be familiar with.
Lots to unpack, and it's a great read on the Flatwater Free Press's website. Natalia, thank you for joining us here on NCAD.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
And 2 central Nebraska cities held their annual Giving Days last week, and in Hastings, donations were at an all-time high. Ryan Valenta has more.
2024 is a year Give Hastings Day donors, organizers, and nonprofits will remember for a long time. Around 10 p.m. Thursday night, the online donation tracker spilled over the $1 million mark for the first time ever, and the final amount tallied at just over $1 million. Hastings Community Foundation Executive Director Dan Peters saw nonprofits come and go all day at Give Day headquarters at the Lark in downtown Hastings, and says the energy and support for these organizations was astronomical.
It's so great to see that excitement when they come up and go, wow, we just got a gift from a new donor, or oh my gosh, we still have a few hours to go and I've already exceeded the goal that we had for the entire day. They are just lit up with excitement.
Almost half of the 108 participating nonprofits received over $5,000 each. Many of them say they wouldn't be able to operate without this annual event.
We rely solely on donations to stay open, and so Give Hastings Day is our biggest fundraiser of the year.
We are just so grateful for the community of Hastings and beyond. There would be no Hastings Symphony Orchestra without Hastings, without the support of the community.
While nonprofits can receive grant funding and donations throughout the year, they're not always guaranteed, which can limit the ability of staff who may not even be paid to do their job. Another reason why Give Day is so important to these Adams County organizations.
As a matter of fact, last year we lost 30% of one of our most significant grants. And if it wasn't for the generosity and the teamwork from the Hastings Community Foundation and all of the volunteers that are behind the scenes, I'm not so sure we would have made ends meet financially.
In total, 5,327 unique donations were made to help Adams County nonprofits, which can sometimes go unnoticed, to keep providing their essential services to central Nebraska. In Hastings, Ryan Valenta, News Channel Nebraska.
And you can stay up to date with the very latest by following us online. Head to newschannelnebraska.com, click on the News tab there. You can also follow us on X, like us on Facebook and Instagram as well. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day. You're watching News Channel Nebraska.